I'm going to take you right into our next keynote, which is Michelle Green. She's going to speak about leading the transformation with inclusion and representation. She's the VP of Financial Systems at Discover Financial Services. Let me just say, she is a total rock star, and she's been talent-centered from the very beginning, helping professional development to get teams to get results. And there's way more that you want to learn about her and all the things she's done in digital cloud transformation. So be sure to look at her LinkedIn profile. But Michelle, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say and capture it up here. Welcome. I love it. Thank you. Tell me, what's your power word for the year? What's your
I'd say it's intention.
It's what?
Intention.
Intention. All right. I'm taking it into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, what an incredible opportunity to be here with all of you. And Chatra and Gina, literally you touched on so many of the points that we'll talk about in this keynote, just around diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And, Chatra, just like you and Patty were saying, I took notes too in that last session. And so I just want to build from what you shared and then continue to give this group some additional perspective and some things to think about. So personally, I am very encouraged by the attention and focus that corporate America, our global, marketplace, and each of us are really placing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I do believe and feel that each of us have a door that's been opened to have more candid conversations in the last 2 years than, frankly, any other time in my 27-year career. With that said, I think we would all agree, just like we heard, there's so much more work to be done. There's so many more conversations to be had. There's so much more listening that we can do and help raise the bar, for one another in our communities. And, I think the key thing that I want to convey today is that, at Discover we have 2 words that we use. It's called effective challenge. And today I would like to, introduce a concept of provocative effective challenge. And what I mean by that is when we think about what diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice is and what it means to you, I'd like for you to look within to think about, are each of us doing everything that we can do to really move the needle and make a difference to our colleagues, yourselves, loved ones, and then come to a place where you've got some tactical next steps. And so, this slide that, Rasa just put up for us, I think does a great job of giving us a visual of, trying to differentiate terms that each of us hear. So when we hear equality, the key thing here is it's the assumption that everyone is benefiting from the same exact supports if meaningful supports exist. Honestly, I think this is where a lot of us might be in our organizations, as well as, either in consulting or entrepreneur, roles, what your clients might be in. I think equity is a confirmation that each person has the support they need. So I think we're moving towards that equity continuum. I think ultimately where we all want to be is in that justice picture, which is that all people are enjoying the same outcome. And so as we move to the next slide and think about moving the needle, the first step, for us to be aware of in our culture is how exactly are we operating today, both in our own organizations or at your clients. And I think that awareness is really important to be mindful of where is that starting point from which you're going to bridge from and build upon. And so at Discover, I did want to share with the group our Discover behaviors. One of the things I'm really proud about Discover is that we are strong supporters of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Our Discover behaviors began many, many years ago, so these are, certainly not new. And they were put in place to really shape our workplace in the ways in which we operate with both our customers within our Discover family, as well as with our business partners. And so we framed these as in the 3 pillars you see here of we play to win, we get better every day, and we succeed together. So when we start with that 3rd pillar of we succeed together, this is really the heart of how we interact with each other. And I would say the we get better every day, we succeed together is the heart of how we interact with each other. And then when we get better every day, that's really the focus on the continuous improvement mindset, and then recognizing that each of us by nature are imperfect. And I want to pause there for a minute, because I believe the journey of diversity, equity, inclusion to justice is just that, a journey. And I think it gives us an opportunity to go back to effectively challenge, or even provocatively effectively challenge ourselves, as well as the cultures that we're operating in, to think about how can we continue to work together to get to the right answers and hear all voices. And so, with that amazing introduction that Patty gave for me, I am leading a digital cloud transformation. And the last time that I spoke with this group, we had 3 months to go live. We went live January 1st, and knock on wood, everything is going great.
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
Sorry, it's my Siri. And we're getting ready to do our January financial close in just a few days. With that said, as you can imagine, that 22-month journey from on-prem to the cloud took a number of people, actually 450, that resided on 3 continents, and they were from 19 different companies. And so you can imagine people's different perspectives, their different thoughts, their different backgrounds. And so for our organization, the MAPS program, to operate as one team from the beginning, we had several sayings that we put in place for guiding principles. And I wanted to share those with you because I do believe that it really did create opportunities for folks to connect on different levels with one another, to really create that as one community that I think each of us are proud of. So the first that I wanted to share was make the space and the time. I think this is so important for people to be able to share their thoughts until all of the thoughts in that meeting have been heard. I think the second point builds on that, which is to say all voices need to be heard and all votes count. And so in our program, we had design phase, build phase, test phase, and then training was streamed throughout that. As we moved from one stage of our program to the next, each person on our leadership team voted with their teams before they came to our leadership meetings to then, for us as a leadership team and also as a senior leadership team, vote. And so during those sessions, we made the space and the time to openly listen to each person's perspective and sometimes dissension about what each person was thinking. And then once we heard that, we decided as a team how we wanted to move forward. Did we need to pivot? Were we ready to move to the next phase? Or were there some still things that we needed to address? And so it was important that we heard all of those votes and those perspectives, because people that were on the program were coming from different perspectives on what they knew, their knowledge level, subject matter expertise, etc. The third thing that I wanted to articulate is really encouraging both interdependence as well as, in some cases, codependence across your teams. Oftentimes people believe that, they can work in silos, and then once they're done with their work, they can hand it over to somebody else. In our team's case, we really encouraged people working together and recognizing their work has an impact on others. And so we had a saying of, if you have a problem and you keep it to yourself, it's your problem. If you share it with others, it's our problem. And so these 3 principles really helped foster us getting across the line together as one team. As we move to the next few slides, there's some tactical considerations I wanted to give the group as you think about answering that question of, is what you are doing today moving the needle for your colleagues as well as your loved ones? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, I think, begins with each of us as individuals. And both Chiatra and Gina had indicated that, as well as the accountability. And so, to Patty's point, my word for this year is intention. And I think if we intentionally look at our own self-assessment of what each of us can do, that creates opportunities for us to be aware of what is privilege and recognize that privilege is more than just social classes, wealth, age, gender, race, sexual preference, and religion. It's also about geographic location, mental health, physical disabilities, educational backgrounds, as well as opportunities that we as people leaders create for others, as well as those opportunities that we create for ourselves. I think the second thing I wanted to call your attention to, and Gina touched on it, is unconscious bias, and really being aware of both unconscious bias and microaggressions. And so I wanted to share this link here for folks to follow up, just to get more information and raise your awareness. And then the third is, as you continue to raise your awareness, I think there's an opportunity for each of us to expand our circles, include more diverse thinking in your teams, as well as being open to listen. And then finally, I wanted to conclude on the next slide with some key items to take as an action when you're doing your self-assessment. And so I think the first is, defining what you want your environment to look like, and then also then look to your organization. I think the second here is using your voice and creating the space. Gina talked a lot about, what she and the Accenture leadership have done of creating the ERG, and it's so awesome that there's 900 people a part of that. Discover had our ERGs that were built out of our Discover behaviors. What I would say is we're at the place in our journey of encouraging people to use their voices and creating that safe space for people to raise their hand. And I recently read a book, it's called The Power of Giving Away Power. I would really encourage folks to read that, because I think it does shake up the paradigm of there needs to be a hierarchy within organizations or teams. I think it creates some provocative, effective challenge of structure can still exist. Does it need to be vertical? Maybe not. But when you think about a constellation of stars, that constellation, usually they're flat or at a slight angle, but all of those stars make up that constellation and the beauty of it. And so that might also create an opportunity for your teams to have the space to raise their hand, use their voices, offer different perspectives, so that together as one team you can continue to move forward. And then just on the last slide, I just wanted to summarize for each of you, what our key takeaways for today were as you're thinking about moving closer to justice. Continue to assess what justice looks like, and please recognize that it's not just a one and done self-assessment. It's an iterative approach. Really define what those North Stars are for yourself as an individual and holding yourself accountable for that. And then also looking at your team's dynamics and working with your team to say, what do we want this to look like? And then be the change that you want to see. And then lastly, set your path for action. And then hold yourselves accountable, just like Chiatra and Gina had mentioned that they're doing, and then working together as a team to get there, recognizing that it's going to be uncomfortable, there might be some stumbles, and that's okay. Because literally we are all learning together as we're moving on this journey to a more just environment. So I hope my thoughts were helpful, and it was awesome being here with each of you, and I am happy to take questions if there's time. Also, I'm more than happy to meet with people offline and continue the conversation.
I just can't thank you enough. And I would ask people, if you have questions for Michelle, please put them in the chat. But what I loved about what you did was, and I captured this, is you gave us some guiding principles for us to think about. And you also gave us some ways to think about what's happening for ourselves and our teams and what we can actually do. And I think that is so valuable. So thank you so much for all of that, Michelle. I can't wait to further this conversation.